That's right. Your kid's stormtrooper costume has been canceled. Don't just return it to the store, throw it away, burn it, and bury it in the backyard. As it is, of course, offensive and bad. I love this time of year when morons write articles about Halloween costumes that offend their delicate sensibilities. So let's hear how Ryan Britt from Yahoo Lifestyle says that the Stormtrooper Halloween costume should be canceled. I want to remind you that I'm having a big giveaway stream tonight on dlive.tv/thequartering. Make sure you head over there after the video and give me a follow. I don't know what I'm going to give away yet. I'll take your suggestions in the comment section down below. Let's cancel the kids' Star Wars Stormtrooper costume. This Halloween, you will doubtlessly open your door to a kid in a Stormtrooper costume, pointing a blaster rifle at your head. Legions of Imperial and First Order Stormtroopers will certainly appear, demanding candy from behind a very iconic and recognizable helmet. I don't know, actually. To be honest with you, I don't see a lot of kids dressed up in Star Wars stuff. I don't know how it is in your neighborhood, but my neighborhood's usually like Fortnite characters and Avengers. I see very little Star Wars, which is curious since as many Star Wars shills continue to try and point out, it's for kids, so stop complaining about it, old beard guy in your basement. And while it's nice to think these kids are costumed as heroic Finn or even Luke and Han disguised as stormtroopers, the reality is most kids are stormtroopers for Halloween are just dressing up as stormtroopers. I think what you should do if you have a kid is get them dressed up as a stormtrooper, black in the face, and then put an authentic Indian headdress on him. And then you could say that he or she is going as cultural appropriation. I don't know. How about a dreadlock wig too? It would just be, if you live in California or some other like area like Austin, I would, if it didn't put your kid at genuine risk because these people are crazy, it would be worth it. It's nice to think these kids are costumed or heroic. The fact is a little bit more scary because collectively, it's like the culture doesn't want to think about the fact, but we should. Having kids dressed up as Star Wars stormtroopers for Halloween is icky. When a grown man who is apparently writing for a fatherly blog uses the word icky, he immediately loses all credibility as a man and all credibility as an adult, as most people stop saying the word icky when they're 8. Stormtroopers have horrific counterparts, both in history and everyday headlines. Historically, the word stormtrooper originated during Dub 1 and applied to a specific type of soldier. No kid on the planet knows that. In fact, most parents, millennial parents, certainly have no idea about the historical association with that term. They're dressing up as a fictional character. I digress. Naturally, no parent in their right mind would select Halloween costumes for their kids reminiscent of either WW1 stormtroopers or other bad words. And yet, arguably, this is kind of what we're doing every time we put a kid in a stormtrooper costume. No, you're not. Holy crap. I can't wait. It's only October 17th. I expect at least 1 or 2 more of these articles. No, your kid is dressing up as a fictional character from a fictional movie. The kid has absolutely no reason to be thinking about the original term and what it associated with. George Lucas specifically modeled much of the aesthetic from the OG Star Wars on the Dub 2, and even contemporarily, parts of the First Order troops in The Force Awakens are meant to evoke images of, well, Germany. So why are we okay with this? In 2016, the Death Trooper costume from Rogue One was gleefully sold by Disney Store, which is fine in theory. But Death Troopers and Stormtroopers are make-believe. But the popularity of these costumes relative to Star Wars costumes is a little unsettling. Imagine being this dude. I have a hard time believing he's a father. I bet you his wife's boyfriend probably is fine dressing up their kid as a stormtrooper. I mean, basically, these guys look like they're wearing a space-age riot gear. Yeah, and of course, you have to link the original tweet where people were spazzing out about Ivanka's kid dressing up in a stormtrooper costume instead of just saying, hey, Star Wars is for everyone. As a kid, I remember the appeal of wanting to get into some sort of uniform for Halloween, whether it was Ghostbusters uniforms or a Starfleet uniform. Okay, so now we definitely know this kid's a millennial. The idea of conformity is very powerful for children. What? Being a Ghostbuster is not wanting to conform. It's liking the Ghostbusters. And when your mom asks you what you want to go as for Halloween, kids from my generation said Ghostbusters, or they said He-Man, or they said G.I. Joe. These were the costumes that kids watched, or Transformers, because these were the popular television shows at the time. It had nothing to do with conforming. Anyway, this is at its core why kids love fantasy of donning Stormtrooper helmet or Kylo Ren mask. They can escape into another world. Again, when you boil it down, it's just playing pretend. But you're still going to write this article and pretend you're deeply offended by it. A kid dressing up as a stormtrooper might be no more or less damaging than a kid dressing up as a fairy princess. I'm going to guess that it's probably more. Except there are fundamental differences in the narrative. I love these articles that are always saying, yeah, it's all fine. And then they always put the biggest but. It's like, I'm a big fan of free speech, but you aren't allowed to say you're a fan of free speech and put anything else after that sentence. They'll also say things like, oh, hate speech isn't free speech. No, it's either free speech or it isn't. Other than Han and Luke stealing stormtrooper uniforms to fool the bad guys, it actually took the Star Wars franchise 38 years to give us stormtroopers with a conscience. Again, what is the conscience of somebody who dresses up as a spooky ghost, who takes a sheet and cuts eye holes out? What is the conscience of a spooky ghost? Does this very important lesson resonate when we stick children? Francis gives Stormtrooper's conscience. The Force Awakens, when Finn decides he won't do bad things for the First Order, he takes off his Stormtrooper helmet and becomes a real person. Does this very important lesson resonate when we stick children in Stormtrooper costumes for Halloween? Probably not. Because it's not about that, you absolute moron. It's about having fun. It's about fantasy. It's about getting dressed up and getting some sweet candy. I mean it. It could be argued that dressing your kid as Kylo Ren isn't much better. That guy ended his father for basically no reason. But at the very least, Kylo Ren and Darth Vader are individuals, like Dracula or Frankenstein monster. Darth Vader and Kylo Ren or Boba Fett are scary characters. Heck, Rey even calls Kylo Ren a monster in The Force Awakens. What about zombies? Are you afraid of kids dressing up as zombies? Because they have no morals. They're just, brain-dead corpses walking around the street. What about mummies? Mummies and zombies are essentially the same thing. It's a zombie wrapped in toilet paper. I remember a lot of kids going as mummies back when I was a kid. Are those costumes off limits? What about if the mummy is a POC? What about if the mummy is a POC but also wears an authentic Indian headdress? See, Halloween is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be about offending people. It's supposed to be about scaring people. These kids who are growing up under the most delicate of human being parents are going to have a tough childhood. I guarantee it. Having kids dress up as monsters on Halloween is kind of what Halloween's all about. But isn't that funny? Every time, if you count the number of times he says something a logical person would say, but then immediately follows it with a qualifier, that's most of this article. But having kids dress up as thinly veiled police state executioners is something else. Really? What about Dracula? You said Dracula's fine. What about the Wolfman? The fantasy element to a stormtrooper isn't really all that fun. If anything, their presence in Star Wars is the scariest thing about the franchise. Star Wars isn't scary for most people. It's not supposed to be. I happen to believe that for the most part, Star Wars is a fairly anti-weapon series of films, despite the fact that several similar-like weapons are brandished all the time. How are they what? Because they use lightsabers? Is that why? Have you seen none of the battle scenes? What are you talking about? Overall, the message of these movies is against them instead of glorifying it. No, it isn't. Oh my God. This is the last sentence. 672 comments. I'm sure they're great. For Pete's sake, cancel Halloween. Halloween parties and costume parties of all. They're all bound to be costumes presents that will upset the easily triggered. Whatever happened to letting a kid enjoy their childhood without constantly being judged? Good Lord, there's more important things in this world. I'll dress up my kid however I want. Please worry about your own kids. Sounds like Mr. Ryan Britt has a lot of childhood problems he has yet to deal with. I hope you get the therapy you need, young man, for you and your family. It's a costume. It's make-believe, just in case you didn't know. Reaching today, ain't you, Yahoo? Sit down, Yahoo. I guess this does remind us all that Yahoo exists, but I think you should dress your kids up however they want to dress up, all right? And you don't worry about the delicate sensibilities of people like Ryan Britt. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.